Hi folks, welcome to YouTube Playlist Serverless Part 2. Took me a little bit longer to get back to this than I wanted to. I was playing with my shepherd puppy and broke my finger. She broke my finger on purpose. So where did we leave off in Part 1? Well, we had API Gateway set up. We used it as a proxy for AWS Lambda. And then AWS Lambda connected through to our backend for us to either add a user to our playlist, add a song to our playlist, or to get a playlist. Now the front end was just sitting on our desktop, so we didn't do anything with the front end. So that's going to change in Part 2. So what do we need to do in Part 2? Well, we want to put our front end up to AWS, and we'll put it in a private S3 bucket. We want a URL, right? So we want a domain, so we'll use Route 53 to get a domain. We want to be able to log in. We'll use Cognito. We'll use a user pool for this purpose to log in. We'll then set API Gateway to add authorization. We'll get a web token from Cognito, and then we can authorize API Gateway. And then we want to use CloudFront as our CDN, our Content Delivery Network. So basically the path for someone logging in, Route 53 to CloudFront to OAI. OAI is going to authorize to CloudFront to S3, and that's where our client app will sit. And you don't have to make anything public. You don't have to make your S3 bucket public. And doing it this way, we can add a certificate. So we'll add a certificate so we have a secure site. If you just set up S3 as a static website and point Route 53 at that bucket, it works, but you cannot, one, you have to make the bucket public, and two, you can't have a secure website, so no HTTPS. Right? Okay, so let's look. I've got this done, so what I'll do is let's look at it quick. I'll stop this beginning part of the video. I'll delete all the resources but for Route 53 because the way I did it, it would take a while for the name service to propagate and get up to speed. But it's pretty simple. I'll show you what I did and you'll be able to reproduce it very easy without seeing me do it. And then I'll start a second video and I'll do the rest all in one video. Probably take, shouldn't be long, maybe about 35 minutes or so to get through. The idea isn't to create a proper website here. The way you'd create it for actual end users. The idea is to learn about these services. I have another version of this using Next.js. I also have one with React. That's more of a proper app, so a proper way to log in and all of that. But again, remember, this is more of a teaching tool, but still a functional process that you could use. Okay, so let's take a look at the app as it is now. So if you go to your app, right, it's going to take you to a login page. Now, normally, you just have a login and such on the main page or some page of your app. The other thing is I'm using Cognito's login page here. I don't do that in the React app, or the Next.js app. We code our own login and such the way you normally would. But again, the idea is to teach about these services here. So if you don't, at this point, if you needed to sign up, you could fill out your information and just choose sign up, and it would send you a code to your email, and you put the code in, you're good to go. So you don't need to see me do that part, but you will see me set all of that up in Cognito. So that redirects us to youtube.developforcloud.com. Right? And developforcloud.com is the domain that I have set up, and that's the subdomain for this. So now we can actually use it. Now you could just go to youtube.developforcloud, but it would not work. The other thing to note is this. Notice that I've got a token, right? So I've got a web token up here. I'm going to show you exactly what that means here in a second if you're new to this. But we can, genre is going to be, well, let's just do rock, and we'll do 5 stars, and we can hit submit, and it'll take me to voila, right? So it takes me to my playlist here. Okay, so there you go, right? It works perfect. And again, if you just went, trust me, if you just went here, it would not work, right? Because you do not have this web token that we got from logging in. Now, while we're here, let's just talk about the web token. So let's grab this whole thing. And let's copy it. I'm going to stick this in Notepad. Although Notepad's not the best because, oh, it does. I was going to say, I didn't think it wraps, but I guess it does because it's so big. So what we want here is we want this ID token. But there's also an access token in here. You see that right here, right? So I think basically we have 3 query parameters here. We have the ID token, we have the access token, and we have the bearer token, or the token type, which is bearer. What we want is the ID token, and we pull that out automatically in code. I'll show you that in a second. But what we can do is, this is the actual web token that we want. So from there to there, right? So if we copied that, oh, we could do this. Watch, we could go to jwt.io. And if we paste this in, it'll show that this is, in fact, a valid web token. You can see the information's there. Now, normally you're not going to put the web token there. You can put a code there instead. But I wanted the token to be there just so we could do this and play with it a little bit, and you can see how it's working. All right, so we that token's absolutely fine. Let's close that. And this works great. Now I only set it up for submit, and again, I didn't set this up as to be a proper app. It's a learning tool. Okay, so let's look at the code quick while we're here. So if you come here, what you'll notice in the from the last video, I added this S3 folder under the client app. So here's the new version of the code. And the only thing that changes is index.js. Well, it looks like I've changed a lot of other things, but this is the important thing that changes. Right? So you already have your stage URL. Everything else should be set up from the first time you did this, but you'll notice I added a get token function. And all that does is it pulls that token, just like I just did by hand, out of the URL. So I get that token and return it. And now, again, not the best way to do this, right? You might want to get the token once, have a login button, get it once, right? Cache it, and then use it as you need it. But what I do is I just call it inside a get playlist here. So if we scroll down, I created a header object here, and I append authorization. So that's what I'm calling it. Although what you choose to call it is really up to you, but this would be the standard. And then I get that token, and we can now pass that token to API Gateway, right, when we make our call. Right? Okay, so that's it. So not too much changed on this end. Let's jump out of here, and I would say that's about it, right? You can see it working now. The only thing left to do is for me to, I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to go and kill everything again, except for my DNS. And then we'll do all of this again from scratch, but you'll be surprised. It'll be pretty quick, probably quicker than the first video. Well, a lot more things to go wrong here, so maybe not. We'll see. Okay, folks. So let's switch here. I've got all the tabs open. I think that I'm going to need Route 53, Cognito, Certificate Manager, API Gateway, CloudFront, and S3. Folks, in the big picture, you want to be doing this with the CDK or CloudFormation templates or something. The idea here is to kind of learn hands-on before you start doing it the other way. Okay, so let's start in Route 53. Now, here's what I did. Instead of purchasing a domain here, I purchased it on Namecheap, and then moved the name servers to AWS. So I changed my name servers at Namecheap to point to AWS name servers that I created. So if you're practicing for any of the associate exams or professional exams, obviously, create a domain for yourself to play with. It's even if you just do it here, it's I don't know, $14 or so, I guess. I have one in my other account. But it's just as easy to do it this way, and it's a lot cheaper on Namecheap, or I don't know what GoDaddy charges. But anyway, so if you go to hosted zones, I have one, but you might have none if it's a new account. And what you're going to do is just say create a hosted zone. And you're going to call it exactly what your domain is. So whatever the domain is in wherever you have it, for me it was Namecheap, I'm just going to call it, I'm going to leave it public and create. And that's it, right? It's that simple. So in this case, this is what I have, right? developforcloud.com. And what you end up getting is this. You'll get two records. You get your name servers and SOA. The only one you have to worry about for right now is the name servers. So if you tick your name servers, what you need to do is you need to move these 4 name servers, right, or change your name servers at your provider, whoever that is, to these 4. So if it happens to be Namecheap, it's as easy as pie. You click your domain, you go to manage, go down to DNS, and right now you're using the Namecheap name servers. You want to go to custom and then put in these 4 and tick a little checkbox and wait an hour or so, and you'll be good to go, right? Cool. So now, I mean, this is really identical to have created this here, right? So it sits right here. Not identical, but it's going to work the same for anything we need to do. All right, now while we're here, we also need to add a couple more. Records. So let's create some records here. I'm going to call them the same as I just deleted. I don't know if that's going to cause any issues, but so I'll do a login first. Now these are all going to change to CloudFront distributions, but for now I'm just going to put zeros here. Eventually we'll change to an alias, CloudFront. We'll put the value will be the URL of the CloudFront distribution. But for now we'll have login. We'll create that one. We'll create another one. This one's going to be YouTube. Again, I'm probably going to kick myself for not changing that to the ones I just deleted, but why not? All right, we'll eventually change this to CloudFront and put in our distribution. And then lastly, we just need an A record without a subdomain. So we need an A record for our root. So we're going to say create. We're not going to put in any subdomain. And once again, we'll just do that, and we'll choose to create that. And that is absolutely necessary when you're going through setting up Cognito. Okay, so that's good. We're going to come back and we'll make changes to these 2, but we also need to add a couple certificates now. Actually, we only need 1. So we need 1 certificate that'll cover our domain developforcloud.com. So let's do that while we're here. So let's go to the certificate manager, and we've got. I thought I had deleted these, but we don't. Let's. We already got a couple. Let's go ahead and delete these, and we'll recreate them just so I can show you a issue that I had, DLETE, when I first created one. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so I killed the certificates that I had, and it just took a little bit of time for things to update, as I had just deleted the records in Route 53, so it wasn't letting me delete the certificates just yet. So let's request a certificate, and what we'll do is we want a public certificate, and let's just request one for every single subdomain that we would have for our account instead of doing individuals. So we could do *dot for cloud.com. Right. Cool. So that's so this is our root domain. I mean, we could get individual ones, so we could do one for login.develop or youtube.develop if you want individual ones, but this will cover everything. Let's do DNS validation. It's a lot easier, and we can hit request. Now let's do an update here, and I'm going to show you. I don't want to admit how long I watched pending validation when I had first done this. It was a while ago, but still, what you have to do is click on the certificate and then create the actual record. So you can create the record, create that record, and now you're done. So if we jump back to Route 53, you're going to notice that we now have that CNAME record that we've created, and we just did that. Okay, so. All right. So there you go, right? So there's the certificate, and again, it's going to cover, it'll cover everything that we need to do. All right, so that's that. Well, what's next? So now we need Cognito. So we're going to jump to, let's jump to Cognito, and we're going to create a user pool. I assume, I don't know if I did or not. Let's see here. Just in case I didn't, and if I did, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll try to remember to check and get rid of it. But let's just talk a little bit more detail about user pools. It's the only thing that's maybe a little bit difficult here, but not too bad. So if I scroll down, okay, not meant to totally be the point here, but it's a good idea to understand. Folks, there's two basic ways we can use Cognito. One with a user pool, and the other is an identity pool, and usually it's both. Right? So what is the user pool going to do for us? Well, the nice thing about the user pool is it will allow us to create users. So users can log in and create accounts, right? But we don't have to just create a user pool account to log into the user pool. We can use our federated social media IDs if we want. Which is great, or we can use OpenID, OAuth, all those different ways to log in through the user pool system, right? Or again, you can use the Cognito user pool itself to create an account. That's what we're going to do here. Then you get a web token back. So you'll get a web token back, and I had mentioned that. So maybe I already talked about this, or maybe I didn't. If I did, hopefully I remember to delete it. And once you get that web token back, you can exchange that web token or send that web token to API Gateway in a header. It's going to be an authorization header to validate or authenticate and use API Gateway. It's the only service that allows us to do this directly. Right? Otherwise, and again, we can actually pass that web token directly to API Gateway. If there are other services that do it, somebody let me know. Otherwise, we're going to do it this way, right? So we're going to authenticate with the user pool, and again, you can use Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever you want, OAuth, OpenID, or you could create a Cognito user pool account. From there, you'll get that token back. You can exchange that in the identity pool for a temporary ID. You can then exchange that for a role. Right? So a role we're going to use as temporary IAM credentials for whatever we set up that we want the user to have access to, right? And again, more often than not, this is probably how you're doing it, but if you just need access to API Gateway, this is a way to do it. Okay, so let's jump out of there. We'll get out of here. Got a shepherd at my feet wanting my attention. Hold on one second. Hi, sweet girl. Hi, Gracie Pearl. Hi, Annie. That's Gracie Pearl. There she is. Hi, sweet girl. Open CV, Open Computer Vision stuff. It recognizes this every single time as a teddy bear. It's kind of cool, but she wants it back. All right, let's switch back here. All right, so where are we? We have our certificate. That's all set, and now we can set up our user pool. So let's create a user pool. Folks, again, you can use federated users if you providers if you want. You'd have to set up accounts for Google or Amazon or Facebook to do it. It's not all that hard, but for this purpose, I'm just going to use the Cognito user pool itself. I'll just use email. You can choose all three if you want. We'll leave the defaults for the password, although a little bit aggravating. No MFA unless you want it. Self account recovery. Obviously, you definitely, well, I'm not saying definitely, but it's a good idea. And we'll only recover via email if someone needs to recover. Self-registration, fantastic. We'll allow Cognito send messages for us. There'll be email messages. And we don't need to tick anything else here. Folks, in an actual production app, you probably want to use the simple email service to set up an email account, but we're going to, I'm just going to use the Cognito email for this. We don't need a reply. So I can jump through here. Let's give it a name. YouTube. Sorry, typing with one missing finger. Well, not missing, it's there, but one unusable finger is makes my average typing even worse. All right, so here's what we're going to use the Cognito hosted UI. Again, I'll do the Next.js version of this. I'll show you that code at some point in an upcoming video, and we code all of that ourselves using the Amplify libraries, which is pretty cool. But for this purpose, nice and easy way to do it, right? We'll get that pop up, that UI, to log in. Now at this point, an even easier way to go is just to use the Cognito domain. As long as it exists, you can put any name here and use it, but let's be fun, and we're going to use the one that we created. So we have a custom domain. So login.develop4.com, right? And we need a certificate, so we'll pick that certificate. That'll cover everything. If you hadn't created the certificate, you could just do it here. We want this public. Let's create an app client name. Now you can have you can use this for multiple apps, right? So the same login you can use for more than one application. So you could have multiple app clients. Eventually what you would do is we'd get this app client code, and we can use it in with the Amplify libraries to code all of this ourselves. Let's see. So our callback, we want to go to youtube.develop4cloud.com, right? And this will eventually point to our CloudFront distribution, right? Which is the only thing that has access to our private S3 bucket and our website. Kind of cool. Let's see here, and I would say that's good. And here's it's just asking us, are you sure? And we'll create the user pool and fix any errors that we get. No errors. That's cool. One error you would get is if you hadn't created this A record, right? Without a so an A record for the root. So again, remember when I created that, all I did was I left the domain blank, right? And just 0000 here, 0.0.0, and you're good to go. This might take a little bit of time. So it's telling us that it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not 60 minutes, but you know. Now to test it, once you do, you could just click in. No, there's one thing I need to change, so let's do that while we're here. Let's go to App Integration, and let's scroll down. We'll go to our app. If you want to create another client app, you could. Right? And it could have its own separate UI. You can edit the UIs too. I never did that because I'm not going to do this in production. I'm going to code my own, or use the Amplify CLI or something. But again, you don't have to use the CLI either. You can just use the Amplify libraries to then code up a Cognito login. But let's choose Edit here, and we don't want the code. Normally you do, right? Because then you don't have that web token in the URL that I showed earlier. But let's get rid of that, and we want to see it. So we'll come here, and we want an implicit grant, and that'll show the token. So now we'll see that token. Cool. And again, it's being created, so I'm going to assume if we say view, we're going to get nothing. Well, we're going to get nothing, absolutely, for now, because we need to do this. It's still not done, but let's back up the bus here. And what we need to do is we need to change our target. So this is the target for our login, right? So that's going to be that CloudFront target. So let's go ahead and copy that. And that's really what's taking time, is it's creating that CloudFront distribution behind the scenes for your login page. It's doing it all for you, which is kind of cool. So anyway, we're going to grab that alias. Let's jump over here, and let's get out of here. This was just that example. Let's zip down. Let's find the login, and we'll choose Edit. And we want, oh no, we're going to use alias here, and our endpoint's going to be CloudFront. And our distribution is right there, and we can hit save. Cool. Again, we have to do that once we have CloudFront. That one we're going to have to set up by hand for our actual pointer to our S3 bucket, right? All right. So again, this will probably take that'll probably take a little bit of time. So you got to be patient. It's sometimes you're going to think it's you when you first start doing it, and it tells you right here. So here's where it says, right, create an alias record in your domain's DNS before you can do this, and that's when we created that a name record. You can see it's not ready yet, so it's still doing its thing. Although it stopped saying that, so it stopped saying it up here, but it's still saying it down here. Okay, so we're all set. We can actually set up API Gateway now. So what we want to set up API Gateway to lock it down unless somebody passes in an authorization header with a web token that they got from, well, this user pool. So let's go to API Gateway, and we'll go to Authorizer. So YouTube 1 is what I called this one in the first video. I have another one in here called YouTube, and that's the one I had done. We did in class for the lecture, but this is identical-ish. Okay, so let's go to Authorizers, and right now, right, anybody could make any of these calls as long as they have the URL. We don't want that. Let's create a new authorizer. Folks, we don't need to use a Lambda. At one point, when Cognito didn't kind of do everything, you know, with OAuth and OpenID and you know, federated accounts, sometimes you want to create these custom authorizers, but I mean, I don't know if you need to as much anymore. Cognito kind of does it all. We can click in here, and there's our user pool, and let's just call it authorization. Although, you know, you don't have to call it authorization. You can call it really what you want, and we can create this. Oh, it would help if we give it a name. Cool. All right, now we can test it, but before we, let's see, name cannot, oh, that was the old one. We can test it, but before we test it, we need a web token to test it, so we'll do that in a second. All right, now, all that did was add an authorizer. We're still not using it, so let's go to Resources, and I'm going to add it for the GET. I won't do it for the other two, but you can do it, same process. So we'll go to our GET, method request, and under authorization, right, we're going to use none. I'll show you something cool in Postman in a second if you want to use IAM too. Let's just do a refresh here. All right, and voila, nice. We can make sure you tick the little tick box. Now we have to redeploy. So once we do that, you've got to deploy again, and we're going to call it dev. Probably repeated this a million times, but if you want to roll back to a different stage, they're all called dev, so make sure you give a description, make your life easier. Different version of the stage, I guess, would have been a better way to put it. Okay, so that's that. We're all set, right? There is no more. Well, temporarily, you might be able to get in there quickly, but there's no more. You'll get a authorization error if you try to do a get, right? /playlist, obviously, and then you know, P. Richardson, rock, and 5 for the number of stars, right? And I guess we can test that out if you want. Let's go ahead and open this. All right, so, oops. So it would be a /playlist, right? And then /, let's put on cap locks, P. Richardson, right? /rock /5. Cool. And you can see it's not quite there yet, so it'll take a second. But eventually you'll get that you'll get the authorization error. Trust me, it takes a couple minutes sometimes. Okay, so that's good. All right, we've locked down API Gateway. We've got our user pool set up so we can get a token back. We just want to we just need to test it. So let's go back. Let's come back here and see if this is finally done creating. It can't be this slow. It still says creating. Come on. Let's just try anyway. I'm impatient. All right, so it's getting closer, but it's still creating. And again, it's building that CloudFront distribution behind the scenes, so it's a little bit slow. Can we jump to? Yeah, I mean, I guess there's nothing stopping us from jumping to. Let's just talk about S3 quick here. So for S3, all you have to do is create a bucket with a unique name, and do not change anything, right? So once you create the bucket, just go down and click OK, create bucket, right? You're going to leave it as a fully private bucket, and then just upload the 3 files that are inside the S3 folder. So again, those would be 3. These 3 are a little bit different because they have the get token where the web version did not, right? And this was the version we were just running locally, right? So we can now get that token. Again, the only thing you'll have to do is make sure you update this to your stage URL, whatever that happens to be. That, and again, all of this was covered in the first video, right? Cool. Okay. Let's see here. There you go. So now you can see we're getting that unauthorized error, right? Everything's fully updated. Now we need to authorize. So we're going to need a header for authorization to be able to do that. Now, in order to get a key, this has to update. Here it is. So this is finally updated too. Again, patience is key when you're doing this. Again, the bad part is you're going to be scared because you think it's you, right? But it's not you. So I have to sign up because I deleted everything here. So I'm going to sign up. Well, it might be you. It was me plenty of times. Trust me. Get cap locks off. And we can come here and cool and sign up. Okay, so let me go get the. Let me go. Is this the private window? No, this one is. Let's bring this over here and let me go get my code. Come on, let's go. And so here it is, a 6-digit code, folks. It's just in your email. Go ahead and paste that in and confirm your account. Okay, so it's letting me log in, and that's good, right? Now you might be saying, well, why the error? Well, it's because we haven't set up the CloudFront distribution for YouTube.developforcloud.com, right? But what we do get is we get a token, right? So that, and I showed that in the beginning, but we can test that, right? Let's grab this token just to show that the one we just created works here. And here was the old one. All right. And so that's going to go from here to right there, right? So you don't want the ampersand, right? Ampersand's the beginning of a query parameter, then the name of the parameter, then an equals, then the value, right? So we want after the equals to before. And again, sometimes I mentioned this, maybe I did, but sometimes access will become before the ID. It doesn't matter because our code's extracting the ID. It doesn't matter where it is. But we can now copy this. I'll show you something else cool too. So we can now copy this and we could test it, right? So let's go to I guess it used to be here. Let's go to API Gateway and just do a quick test. It's so cool when all of this works. Open link in new tab. Especially after, struggling with it for so long like we all do, right? Not that I still don't have my issues with it. I do. Let's see here. Test. This will be the time, right? Watch this not work. Whew. There we go. Right. So there you go. So that token just worked just fine. But here's even cooler. Let's do this. Let's go to Postman. And we can come down. And let's go ahead and sign in. And I'll use my federated account, just like you can set up in Cognito. on. 4 fingers. Give me a break. Maybe I'm just using that as an excuse. I don't know. So here's something really cool about Postman. If you haven't used it, or if you just didn't know about this feature. So let me go to my workspace. One thing that drives me a little nutty about Postman these days is, when did it become so complicated? Remember how simple it used to be? Right? Now it's just madness. Okay, so let's come here. Now I think I've got the. Let's go to headers. Let's add an authorization header, and let's pop that key in, because I think I've got it still. I do. Cool. Now let's. And it might take a second for this to work too, but let's go and grab my stage URL, which is this. Let's go. And, oop. Did I do cut? I don't know what I did. Oops. Let's try that again. Let's copy. All right, and let's come back to Postman, and let's go ahead and stick that in there. And again, we want .com. I assume is what we're missing. No, I'm missing more than that. There's like dev and some other fancy stuff on the end, isn't there? And just dev, I guess. Let's try that again. Oop. All right, let's pop that in here. So it's going to be // let me put on cap lock, and we'll do 5-star, and let's hit send. And what did I spelled my name wrong. You notice I'm not returning any error in this case. I just return a blank playlist. Fire the coder. CHARDSON. There we go. Cool. And we get our playlist back, right? Fantastic. Right? Okay. I think control click will probably take you to it. So cool. Oh, a little pop evil to
the comfort of your phone.
Little pop evil to celebrate. I guess if we ever get through the.
So what if we have questions about our policy?
I don't have any questions about my policy. So I drive down a lonely road, praying for the morning light. Okay, so here's the coolest part. I don't know if you know this exists, but I did not. If we come right over here, we can actually get the code in whatever flavor you want, including a curl. Why you would want that, I don't know. So we wanted it as a JavaScript fetch, right? So if you go to JavaScript fetch, there you go, right? So here it is. Now, you don't want the path parameters hard coded. You're not going to have the header hard coded, but we just looked at the code to pull the web token out of the URL, and from last time, you know how to pull the user and genre and stars from the form, right? So that's all set. So anyway, handy tool if you haven't used it before. The funny thing is, the way I found it was, I thought to myself, why the heck don't they give us the actual code? And quick Google, and lo and behold, they do. Sorry, Postman. I was mean for no reason. Cool. All right, that's it. We are done, except for, let's get out of here and leave this page. Again, I assume I covered this. You're just going to drag your files up. Don't need to change anything. You're going to leave it private. The only thing we need to do is build a CloudFront distribution now. That's awesome. All right, let's create a distribution. And we're going to pick, right, our bucket. Right? Again, right, this is not a call to a static website. That bucket is not a static website. It's just a regular old S3 bucket that is private with our stuff in it. Let's see here. Enter a name. I guess we can leave that. We want it to be public. We don't need any headers here. We don't need to change the origin policy. Everything's sitting in one bucket. It's nice and easy. You can, this is layer one. You can handle WAF if you want. Turn on WAF, which I would highly recommend. but we don't need it for this. We can just grab that overall certificate, which is cool. The root object we want is index. Oops. I think I called it HTM, or it got renamed to HTM somewhere, not HTML. Here, hold on. Where is? Yeah, it's HTM. So make sure if that happens to you. That kicked my butt for a little while. It wasn't working. And then that's. Oh, wait a minute. We need to. So we've got the certificate. You can, set your edge locations to whatever you want. I mean, probably be cheapest if you just did this. If this was all you were, using, and I'm going to just choose. You have to choose not to enable WAF if you don't want it. And okay, so here's where we need to set or create a origin policy, right? No, we don't need that. I'm sorry. Boo me. Sorry, my brain's getting a little bit punchy. What am I missing? Oh, here we go. This is why. I want origin access is what I was looking for. Now, the newer way to do this is with OAC, but you cannot do that with an HTML, with a website. So we have to use the legacy OAI, which works fine. So we'll choose OAI and create new. It's that simple. Just whatever name it puts here, just keep it. All right. Now you have two options, right? You can update your bucket policy, right? So your IAM policies on your bucket to allow this CloudFront distribution to access it, or you can just ask it to do it for you. It's nice and easy. So say yes, update that for me, and that is about it, I think. Let's create the distribution. We'll find out if we get an error. All right, so it's going to take some. Oops, I forgot to put in my my alternate domain name. So let's jump back in here, and we want that to be youtube.for.com, right? And let's save that. And right, that was right here, right? youtube.developforcloud.com. Now all we need to do is edit and put the CloudFront distribution here. So cool. Where the heck was that? No. I'm getting a little bit punchy here. Oh, here we go. My bad. So here we go. That's going to be the. Let's go ahead and copy that. And now we can come back, and again we want a alias CloudFront distribution, and we can oh, there you go. You can actually just choose it, or you could have pasted it in. It's nice when it just does that for you, and we can hit save. And that's it, folks. Let's look at the S3 bucket while we're waiting for that distribution to distribute. If you go to permissions, what you're going to notice is a policy that was added, and well, I've got, the only reason I have two is because I added this twice, but we can edit this. I don't know which one's which, so I was going to say I can edit and remove. I'm going to assume that it's two that I would want to leave because I did that second. But so you could I could just delete this one. But here's the policy that was added, and it just allows, right, get object to the CloudFront distribution, which is awesome. Okay, so now it's just a little bit of a waiting game here, and basically what we're going to do is go to our app client, and we're going to see if it will. Actually, are we already logged in? There you go. It was that quick, right? How cool is that? This is what I wanted to tell you. And then I'm done, I promise. If we come back here to CloudFront, if you come down to your distribution, one thing you might want to do is create a staging area for new code, because here's the problem. If I just drag a new index.html file, whatever it happens to be, or anything into my S3 bucket, well, CloudFront has now just already distributed those files across the planet. I think only North America is what I chose here. But it's at all those edge locations already, ready to be used, right? So what happens is when I put a new file in the S3 bucket, well, it's going to be there until the cache on those distributed files expires, which could be a while. So what you could do is you could create a staging area for new versions of your code. But what if you didn't do that and you're like, hey, I just want to make a change to my JavaScript file, push it to my S3 bucket. Well, what you can do is you can come up here and invalidate. That way you don't have to wait a day for your cache to expire, or however long it takes. So you create an invalidation, and you could say / for the root directory, or if they were in subdirectories, and just put in the files that you want. So index.js, .html, htm I think is what I have this one called, or whatever. Create an invalidation. It would destroy the cache, destroy the ones that are distributed to the edge locations, and then push the new versions up to those edge locations. And it's pretty quick. So you'll get frustrated if you're pushing new files to your S3 bucket and you're not seeing the results, and that would be because of the cached versions. Okay, now that's it, I promise. Good luck.